Good afternoon. I'd like to call to order the meeting of the Oklahoma City Water Utilities Trust. First order of business is to approve the minutes of the December 18, 2018 meeting, and I'd recognize a motion to that effect. It's been moved. Is there a second? Second. Moved and seconded. We'll vote. Approved. We have a lengthy consent docket. I would recognize a motion that we approve the consent docket subject to individual consideration. It's been moved. Is there a second? Moved and seconded. Are there any items for individual consideration? Seeing none, we'll vote. Approved. Next item of business is the concurrence docket. We have 3 items. Item number 1, I'd recognize a motion to approve. It's been moved. Is there a second? Second. All in favor? Approved. Second item, concurrence with the City of Oklahoma City in ratifying and approving addenda number 1 and 2. Recognize a motion to approve.
Move the item with one question. I see the start date for the project. What is the completion date? Starting in January 2019?
Sam, do you know the completion date of the project? Item B? We'll find out and get back with you.
Been moved and seconded. We'll vote. Approved. Final concurrence docket item. Concurrence with the City of Oklahoma City in approving amendment number 4 with Schwartz paving, street widening improvements, and WC 0606 water line relocation at Kelly Avenue from Northeast 63rd to Wilshire Boulevard, an increase of $62,559.50. It's been moved and seconded. We'll vote. Approved. Items for individual consideration. We have a presentation on the Hefner water treatment plant improvements. Is that correct?
Yes, sir. Mr. Chairman, Nathan Maddenwall is here to give that presentation.
Good afternoon, Chairman and Trustees. So I'm going to do a presentation on 2 projects we have going on, or we're getting ready to get started at the Hefner water treatment plant. One is to upgrade our ozone system, and the other is to upgrade our lime system. So jumping in the presentation, we'll do a quick background about where we're at, where these facilities are located within the water treatment plant itself, and then we'll discuss the 2 projects we're doing in a little bit more detail, and then look at the schedule of completion for these projects. So on the screen you see you're looking north of Hefner Lake, where the Hefner water treatment plant is located. And the 2 projects the first project we're doing is the ozone system, which is just north of Hefner Road. And then we'll also be doing the lime system improvements there. So if we get into the ozone system improvements, so what is the need for ozone at the facility? It's a primary disinfectant for the plant, and it also provides taste and odor control for the water. The need for the project is we need to have the capability to treat currently between 20 million gallons per day to 100 million gallons per day to make sure we can meet our customer demands, turn it down in the winter period when we don't have as high as demand, and then ramp it up in the summer when we have higher demand periods. We're also sizing all the facilities and structures to be able to expand for future needs. We're going to improve the reliability of the system by having new equipment. And the installation we're doing here will allow us to modify the dosages to match the water quality that we're seeing coming into the plant. So the engineer we have on this project is Crollo Engineers. We did the initial study to determine what the level of improvements were necessary, and then this is the amendment we're doing with this project. We're going to procure the equipment because it's specialized equipment. We'll make sure we get the right thing, do that part first, then complete the design process, and then we'll go into construction. Engineer will be with us through that process all the way through. So the cost for the project, the engineering fees are just under $3 million for this type of project, and with the amendment and the initial study, and the construction is estimated at $20 million currently. So if we look at the facility here, this is the red box is showing kind of where we're at now. We'll be upgrading that, and then we'll also be doing improvements in the other red areas. We'll be building a new building for electrical facility to support the ozone system. And then we're also going to move the location of the tanks and modify some piping to get to where we're feeding it into that building. And then we're also making sure we're planning for the green improvements would be what we need to do when we need to expand the plant to 125 million gallons per day in the future. So, as for the lime system, the lime we add to reduce the hardness of the water, we call it lime softening. The need for the project is we need to improve the reliability of the system and then allow ourselves the capability to meet future demands for the plant, be able to turn it down similar to the ozone, and then also increase the flows in the future when necessary. The engineer for this project that was selected is CP&Y. The engineering contract will cover for them to do the initial study, the preliminary engineering, do the design services, and then also provide construction services all the way through the project. Project costs engineering is about $2.7 million, and the estimated construction cost is $22 million on this project currently. So as far as how we're going to get this completed, Ozone has a little bit of a head start since we've done the preliminary engineering. We're going to get both of them started immediately, but Ozone, we're going to do the procurement first because we need to do that to know how the final design needs to be completed. We'll be doing the final design all the way through this year, looking to bid early next year, and then we have about 24 months for construction for this type of project because we have to do some phasing, shifting some of the equipment while we're still meeting our needs for the plan. And for the lime facility improvements, we're going to be doing the engineering report for about 4 months. Then we'll go into the design phase. We'll look to bid this project after we bid the ozone project, but this one will have a little shorter construction duration of about 18 months. And with that, I'd be happy to answer any questions that you may have regarding these two projects.
Are there any questions? Recognize a motion to approve number A, 5A. It's been moved. Is there a second? Second. Moved and seconded. We'll vote. Approved. Next, we'll
Thank you.
work on item 5B. Need a motion to that effect to be approved? It's been moved. Is there a second? Moved and seconded. Oh, I'm sorry.
Mr. Chairman, Larry Hare is here to discuss this item.
I thought we had already talked about that. I was jumping ahead.
You and I did.
Yeah.
All right, thank you very much. Pictured here are the lagoons that we are going to close at the Hefner Water Treatment Plant. As you can see that they are surrounded by neighborhoods, a high school right here, as well as the soccer fields and other development here on the east side of the lagoons. So knowing that this picture looks mighty familiar, I may have seen this somewhere before. In the treatment process, the plant takes water from the lake, treats it to drinking water, and all the stuff that's left over is called residuals. And we used to put these in these lagoons, and then we let the lagoons dry out, take them out of service, and then try to haul those residuals off. But with the recent construction of new residual handling facilities, they process the residuals as they are created, and thereby produced in a form that they can be stockpiled for a little bit and then hauled off, thereby rendering these lagoons unnecessary. With the help of C.H. Guernsey, we created a closure plan for the lagoons with the Oklahoma Department of Environmental Quality. They estimated there's about 400,000 cubic yards of residuals in these lagoons. Luckily, there's no contaminants located within these residuals, and that if they were dried to about 60% solids, they would be an acceptable fill material. So elements of the project is to get the residuals out of the lagoons via some haul routes. Some of them are occurring within the soccer field complex itself into a drying area off-site where they will be reworked, and then once they're dried, they'll be returned back to the lagoons and compacted. So that way we won't have to bring in any fill material. In order to get water, rainwater, away from the lagoons, we have to do improvements for stormwater. These are stormwater piping going around the North Lagoon to divert it from the high school and the police station, as well as the soccer fields, into a detention pond area. And the whole purpose of this project was to try to get all three of these lagoons closed by July of this year. We received bids on January 3rd from 5 bidders. They were required to demonstrate how they were going to meet the schedule for this project to get it done by the end of July. Unfortunately, none of them met this requirement. Two bidders had work schedules that had completion dates within the month of November. One of them said 12 months it would take to get this thing done. One bidder had a work plan, but he didn't really have a schedule to go by, and another bidder had really nothing to go by. So we're deeming all of these fairly non-responsive bids, and we're recommending that these bids get rejected and re-advertised. And we'll still keep the same elements that we have in the original project. The only difference is that we're going to turn this into a milestone project where we will have the North Lagoon closed by the end of August, and then the other two lagoons closed by the end of December. Thank you.
Any questions? Okay, so we're going to be approving something a little different than what's in our packet that came out.
Correct.
I'd recognize a motion to approve the following: ratify and approve addenda numbers 1 and 2, and rejecting bids, and approving plans and specifications to be advertised for bids, project WT 0220 revised, Hefner Water Treatment Plant Lagoons Closure and Land Restoration. It's been moved. Is there a second? Moved and seconded. We'll vote. Approved. And we have one more item on this, under number C.
Mr. Chairman, this is the procurement of the pipeline for the new Atoka pipeline. Larry Hare will present, give us a brief presentation on this item.
This is the exciting one of the day right here. I'm sorry?
I thought the 40 acres was pretty good.
Yes, that was pretty exciting as well, but this is more exciting here. Because for those who are new, we have a 100-mile-long pipeline that brings water from southeast Oklahoma to Lake Draper in southeast Oklahoma City. We also have an approximately 17-mile-long pipeline that brings water from McGee Creek Reservoir here to Lake Atoka. And this pipeline contains 6 pump stations along the way. It's a 60-inch concrete pipe, and several studies in the past have shown that we need a new, bigger pipeline to meet our demands forecasted up into 2060. So this phase of the second Atoka pipeline is to put in a new 72-inch steel pipeline, along with 3 brand-new pump stations along the way, one at Kanawha, near the town of Stonewall, and at the southern tip of Lake Atoka itself, termed Pump Station O. So we issued a request for proposals in order for one manufacturer to provide all 100 miles of this steel pipe. We had a mandatory pre-proposal meeting in October of 18th, and 4 pre-qualified vendors showed up in alphabetical order. That would be American Cast Iron, Mid-America, Northwest, and the Thompson Pipe Group. The request for proposal contained 3 main components, that being technical specifications on what we want the pipe to be made, how we want it to be made, materials, thicknesses, so on and so forth, quality criteria questions, and pricing and award recommendation. With the help of our 8 design engineering teams who are working on design for the Atoka pipeline, we came up with 10 in-depth quality criteria questions that dealt with manufacturing, materials and well testing, how they store the materials and the pipe, scheduling, delivery, logistics, on how to get the pipe from point A to point B, and whether they had any current litigation and what certifications they had. So a selection committee was appointed by the general manager that consisted of 7 members, many of them from the city, from the utilities, public works, and finance departments, and the design engineering team nominated 2 of their fellow design engineers to accompany the selection committee with their processes. When the proposals were turned in, they toured the proposers' facilities. So we went to 2 plants in Texas. We went to 1 plant in Columbia, South Carolina, and another in Flint, Michigan. And the proposers were then ranked by the selection committee from the highest to the lowest, highest quality. So rank number, it's like the Olympics. The number 1 is the winner, number 2 is the second place, and third, and so on and so forth. So from the proposals, only 3 vendors submitted a proposal, and the selection committee ranked them accordingly. The highest ranked firm in quality was termed to be Thompson Pipe Group. The second was American Cast Iron, and the third was to the Northwest Pipe Company. The next thing in line was to evaluate the pricing once the quality was ranked among the 3 firms, and taken straight from the RFP that the highest ranked firm would be looked at if their price was within 5% of the average of everybody else's price. If they weren't, then we would look at rank number 2. So looking at the pricing, we could see that the Thompson Pipe Group was at roughly $153 million for 100 miles of 72-inch steel pipe. American Cast Iron Company, they put in 2 prices. One was for the RFP itself, and then they proposed an alternate to go by. And then the Northwest Pipe Company put in a proposal for $170 million. So as you can see, the Thompson's price is well within the 5% range. So the selection committee recommended award to the Thompson Pipe Group. Any questions?
Thank you.
Thank you, Larry.
You're welcome.
Okay, I now recognize a motion to approve the presentation on the Atoka Pipeline steel pipe. Is there a second? Second. Moved and seconded. We'll vote. Approved. Items from trustees. I'm sorry, I apologize. Resolution authorizing the general manager or designee to negotiate and approve a license agreement with Fast Markets, a division of Metal Bulletin Holdings LLC, for Metal Index to be used for steel pipe supply and services for the second Atoka pipeline, estimated annual cost of $4,200.
Mr. Chairman, this item enables us to get a standardized organization to help us with metal indexing, because the project is 4 years. If we didn't provide indexing in the price that we pay for the pipe, the front-end cost would probably be substantially higher, because the steel is a commodity and the manufacturers base their prices on the market. And so we have an indexing provision in our pricing structure for the pipe on what we pay for this 4-year period, 4 or 5-year period, however long it'll be. So this item enables us to team with a group who can help us with that indexing.
Are there any questions? I'd recognize a motion to approve this. Moved and seconded. We'll vote. Approved. Now, items from trustees. Seeing none. General manager report.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I have a couple of things. First of all, I don't believe during my tenure all the lakes have been full, but they are, even the one that we don't want full. So the Lake Atoka is supposed to be about 5 feet below full pool, and it's only about 2 feet down. The other lakes are either a little above or just barely below full pool. So Mother Nature's been kind to us. In addition to that, our lake balance plan seems to be working. I remember looking at the level report last year, and Draper was about 6 feet down. Atoka was about 5 feet down during this same period of time. So the way we're managing the water and lakes is working. Plus, we're getting a lot of rain in southeast Oklahoma. So that's working well. The next item, we have a special guest in our audience, and I would like to recognize our special guest, Mr. Couch. It looks a little weird, you sitting out there, not up here, but good to see you. So I wanted to say a few things about Mr. Couch. We gave him a resolution back a few meetings ago, talked about all his accomplishments related to water supply, his tenure as the utilities director, and it was a really, really long list. But this is personal. I'd be remiss if I didn't thank you personally, Jim, for number one, bringing me on board and enabling me to be a part of the team. Over the past 2 years, the trust has received several awards, and it wasn't because of me. It's because of the way you and others have managed this trust over the years, and the quality of this organization is being recognized by our peers. So we've evolved into a very special organization. We're invited by organizations even outside the country to tell the Oklahoma City story, and that's pretty impressive. So when I started, Jim said, Chris, and I've heard this before from other directors, it's not broken, so don't break it. And so far, I haven't broken it. So throughout my brief tenure as general manager, Jim has given me guidance, both when I asked for it and a few times when I didn't ask for it. He'd say, Chris, I need to explain a few things to you, and he would, and then I'd respond accordingly. So I appreciate your help in keeping me headed in the right direction. And this, to be honest, without a doubt, this is the best organization I've ever worked with, and it got that way long before I got here, and it's because of your direction as the city manager, the utilities trust member, and as you started as the utility director. It's funny, when we'd go to meetings together, he'd introduce himself not as a city manager, but as the former utilities director. So I think he was pretty happy and pretty proud about that designation. So Jim, it's been a pleasure to be a part of your team, and thank you so much for everything. So with that said, we have a new member of our trust, Craig Freeman, city manager. Welcome aboard. It's going to be my pleasure to work with you, hopefully for a very, very long time. So,
well, thank you. I appreciate it. I'm looking forward to working with the board and working on this trust, and I know I've got a lot to learn about this. I'm not going to come in and I'm not a former utilities director, and I'm not an engineer, and so I won't be second-guessing you.
That's all I have, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. Any citizens to be heard? Seeing none, we're adjourned.